I'll keep repeating that.
Thank you.
And if you have any means to show yourselves through the camera, that helps. If you don't, it's also not a problem, but it's definitely better to look at you than black squares. So how do we do this? I know Kate was first coming in if she has questions, but beyond that, there is under the reactions. I mean, everyone is Zoom oriented these days, but if you're not, under the reactions in Zoom, there is a raise hand. And I'll be looking at the hands because it keeps the order of raised hands. So I can take questions based on that. Like I'm raising a hand now. But I don't have a question. So I see Karina. Did you want to ask your question?
Hi, yeah, thank you for doing this. This was really helpful. I actually have started my application and I sent out my letters of recommendation requests, and my managers were just asking what kind of stuff they should emphasize in the letters of recommendation, and I couldn't really find a ton of information on that on the website. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, typically we read them in a way that describes both your analytical skills or technical skills, I should say, and also you as a person, you know, your curiosity or drivenness. You know, they can add those as well. They always help. But definitely they need to be able to compare you with your peers to be able to put, you know, there's also some percentages they'll add in the form. But anything that presents you as a person who would be successful potentially in data science. And that's definitely analytical skills as a part of it.
Okay.
Hi, Ellen.
Hey.
Ellen Dodge.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Karina just asked, you know, what should be emphasized in the support letters or letters of recommendation that they're getting. Saying, you know, anything that presents them as their analytical skills and personality in terms of, or as a person of curiosity and drivenness and things like that. So if you'd like to add anything, please let us know.
So as Ilkay was telling you before, we are looking for strength in 2 out of 3 major areas, but so whatever the letters can contribute towards any of them, this is going to be very helpful. But let me point out as a side remark to this, I don't want anybody to worry that if they don't have the right 2 areas, then there is any issue. There won't be. Each of the 3 areas will be covered in a self-contained way in the program. It's not that we believe you cannot succeed if you don't already know the material. The problem is that if you have to learn all of them from scratch, you simply won't have the time given the intensity of the program. Okay, but if you're comfortable sort of with 2 of them, then you can pick up any one of the 3 from scratch and build up on the other 2 in the time allotted.
Great, and next question is Leslie.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. So my first question is just kind of on the technical side. I saw that there's the early applications due May 1st, I believe, and I was wondering about how long the admissions office takes to get back to people who apply at that time.
I can answer that one. So
Okay.
it typically takes about 4 to 6 weeks for them to kind of review even the early consideration applications, and then also after the final deadline, about 4 to 6. weeks. And then we do try to get, decisions out as soon as possible. But we do often tell applicants to keep in mind that our faculty directors are also faculty and they're teaching, during the regular quarter. So we try to give them, a good amount of time to review all the applications that come in. And then applicants also need to be aware that they may be put on a wait list as well after the early consideration deadline. But typically we tell people, hopefully we try to get them out after about 4 to 6 weeks.
That sounds reasonable. I like it. And then the other question I had was one of the other programs mentioned that one of their best or one of their favorite project managers ended up being somebody from a music background. And just out of curiosity, I was wondering what's the most outlandish background you've seen excel in the data science program?
We had a Navy SEAL, I think, at some point.
Oh, that's cool.
I can remember, at least, as coming from a different background. But we had students from many backgrounds, but mainly related to the areas of, product design, engineering, and science.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Science, yeah, and science broadly defined. I remember biologists. I remember people who wanted to jump into San Diego's vibrant biotech industry through this avenue.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
We have a lot of biology-related capstones. It's very popular with our students. So every year we'll have 1 to 2 capstones in biology. Kate?
Hi. I had a question about the homework or at-home work. Is it mainly problem sets or studying on your own or projects with other people? How is that formatted?
I think that this depends very much on the course and on the particular homework within that course. But there is a lot of collaboration going on. There are many common projects.
Yeah,
they're rather hands-on, right? They're rather hands-on, so people can talk about how they set up the system together and so on.
Yeah, you won't write many essays in this program. And as Olin said, there are a lot of hands-on homeworks and projects. It's a combination of it in the classes, and some of the projects tend to be group projects. And homeworks are generally supportive of the material, and projects are oriented towards applying what you learned to a project of your choice. It's typically across the classes. And I think some classes, including the capstone, will require you to write reports based on your data-driven analysis. So there will be some reporting component as well.
Thank you.
Olin, did I cut you off? I felt like when I started,
No.
you were about to say something.
No, not at all. You said it perfectly.
Great. And then I see Gassan.
Hello. I too thank you for this opportunity. I've been interested in this program for a little while now and have been meaning to call in and try to speak to a counselor about it. So when I saw this opportunity, I was actually really excited about it. I appreciate the requirements or the recommendations that you make for the type of information we should have before we attempt this program. I was in the UCSD Extension, the Data Science and Visualization course, and I found that the people who found it to be, or it seemed like they found it easier, were the ones that had an engineering background and a math background. So I would like to, brush up on my algebra and probability and statistics by taking specific courses in linear algebra. My question is, I know that we're running up on a deadline for the application process. Would that need to be done before the application is put in? Especially since I don't have a undergrad degree in engineering or mathematics. I've got a finance undergrad. So would it be better for me to just wait until the next year to apply, or do you recommend putting in the application and then taking some courses before the class starts?
So the latter works as well. Remember that we are counting also on your job experience. If you have used various data analytics tools and techniques in your job, and from your job title, it seems that this would be rather likely. You would certainly get credit for that.
Yes, I've done some. I've used the tools that I've learned in the data science and visualization at work. It's not my main function, but I do use a lot of Python, ETL, techniques on smaller data sets. I'm not in the larger petabyte or exabyte data sets yet, but
and what you did on top of this data in Python, does it have bearing on data analytics, some machine learning? Did you
machine learning, no, but
classify?
definitely, yeah.
So it's also important that we ask you questions to write about your experience. So it's not just what's in your CV or in your undergrad background. If you describe your experience based on, where your experience is at, it's generally very informative for us, because then we are looking at, how you're describing it, the words you're using, that shows your skill set and things like that. So I would suggest you apply this year if you have some programming and an analytics background, especially from finance. You tend to have the math background for it. And of course, it's an evaluation process, but we don't penalize you for applying again. So I wouldn't wait until next year, unless you think you have a huge skill gap that you need to match. But I think you can do that analysis based on those questions, probably. And we typically want 3 out of 5 to be strong.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Jorge.
Hi, my question is, if I have a newborn or another personal emergency during the duration of the data science master's program, can I take a leave of absence for 2 quarters and then come back to finish my degree? Or can I take an elective course as a pass, no pass basis during those quarters that I'm absent? And if that's possible, how will the pass or no pass grades impact my graduation timeline?
So I can answer the leave of absence part. Yes, students can take a leave of absence. However, it's not where you can just take however many quarters you want. With the way that the program is structured, it's cohort based, so all of our students start and end the program at the same time. They take the same courses each quarter. So if you were to do a leave of absence, you could put in the request, and then you would, let's say you left after, you do have to complete your first quarter. So let's say after fall quarter, you decide to do a leave of absence, you would submit that, and then you'd have to come back a year later, because then you would join the next cohort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so because of the fact that, or because of the way that the courses are structured and they build on each other, you wouldn't be able to just hop in and hop out. You would have to, join a cohort. If you left, then you'd have to join the next cohort a year later.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep. Okay. And I saw on the schedule that you seems like you're supposed to take 2 classes per quarter. Would I be able to just take 1 class per quarter if work or my family gets too demanding?
Like I had said, because the fact that the program is cohort-based and structured the way it is, each student takes the same courses every quarter.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be able to allow students to be able to just take one, because each course is only offered in that specific quarter.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So on the application, there is a section to submit a COVID-19 personal statement, and just curious, who needs to submit that statement? Because I graduated college in 2015, and I've been working since. So it seems like that COVID-19 personal statement's geared towards students or current students. So yeah, I was just wondering about that aspect of the application process.
Yeah, that's a new thing because of, of course, we're in the pandemic now and a lot of people have been affected by it. If it doesn't apply to you, you don't have to fill it out. Our admissions committee will not be looking at that. It was added to all applications across the board. So it wasn't like, specific to ours. The 6 questions that I think both of the faculty directors mentioned on the application, those are specific to the data science and engineering program. But the pandemic statement is, again, just something that was added across the board for all applications, both probably, I think all graduate students, because some people have been affected by that and do want to kind of voice, what how the pandemic affected them.
Yeah. Okay. So then, so in my case, do I just leave it blank, or just say like not applicable, or what do I do with that?
Yeah, you could just put not applicable, or, if you do have something you want to write down, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. It seems like it's related to school. So then I don't have, yeah, I mean, I got nothing to write down if it's related to school. So
yeah, then
yeah, I'm just gonna leave it blank.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Martin next.
Hi there. Thank you for taking the time to answer questions for us today. Really appreciate it. I had a couple questions. So I noticed that there's just one course in specific to machine learning. So I was curious if just designing, building, and evaluating predictive models, is that pretty much covered in just that course, or is there overlap into the other courses as well?
So we have that one course typically for machine learning and the skills that are needed to build on the concepts. And in some of the following classes, for instance, or classes that are taught with it, there's definitely some machine learning and analysis concepts are introduced as well. And in the capstone, you'll work with different advisors. For instance, deep learning comes up a lot. Is it covered? Or is there a course on that? There's never going to be enough courses to cover everything. So our strategy there is to give you the foundational background so that you can pick up a paper and understand that. A technique, how to use it, what it does. And since I see across the board, everyone working with an advisor on a technique they haven't learned in the machine learning class actually, and how easily they're able to pick it up, I can say that there are enough opportunities to learn more and work with the faculty, and you will have the skills to be able to do that by the end of the program.
Okay, sounds good. And then I noticed that there was some specific technologies like Hadoop and Spark that were actually listed. I was curious if there's any aspects of Keras or TensorFlow or scikit-learn or any other.
Yeah. So
I'm very interested in deep learning, as you can probably hear.
So this is the thing with tools, right? And the examples. There are definitely, as a part of the machine learning class, you get some deep learning at the end of that. And in terms of the environment you're using, if you're using TensorFlow or other type of libraries, where would you run that? Again, I see our students be able to use in their projects effectively all these different libraries and tools. Scikit-learn is a standard one, of course, but the idea is really you get to be introduced to a process of being able to learn and build on your skills. So that particular issue hasn't been such a big problem with our students in terms of, I learned only Spark and how do I, and of course, given how fast things are, faculty, of course, modernizes these courses. And, the big data system in the background might change. Even if you learn Hadoop and Spark, you might learn another one that sort of brings it and makes it more current, so to say. And similarly, Ellen can talk about the database side of that. We have definitely a really good coverage of data management and database systems in terms of big data systems, not just relational data, and different types of data stores and NoSQL context, how they're being used is also being covered. Oh, you're muted, I believe.
I was just going to add to this that in general, our philosophy in this program is not to simply teach tools. We're hoping to give you much more than a vocational school would do, because tools change, and the tool of the day when you apply may no longer be the one by the time you finish or a couple of years down the road. So the idea is that in this rapidly moving landscape, what we want to do is equip you with the ability to jump in on any new tool, because they tend to not be fundamentally different if you understand these fundamentals. And really, the motto is the famous: if you give a man a fish, then he's not hungry now. If you teach him how to fish, he'll never be hungry again. We're going for the second way of teaching you. And it's always a very rewarding experience when one of our former cohorts comes and gives a talk, and we see how far they've grown and how they have such anecdotes as, well, I was in this interview and I was faced with actually something I had not seen before, but I knew exactly what questions to ask in order to quickly catalog the system, the technique that they were asking me about, and relate it to what I already knew.
Thank you very much. So I was just curious, how many years has this program been going on, and in previous years, what's the cohort size that we can expect, I guess, from previous experience, previous years?
Yvonne, are we in the 7th? I'm losing track.
Fall
Yeah.
2021 would be cohort 8.
8.
Yeah. So we have the 7th this year that started then, right? Yeah. So we are graduating our 6th cohort this year, this means. And I think we started by around 20. It went up to 40. And we kind of go between 35 and 40. Is that a good statistics?
Yeah, that's what we typically aim for.
Yeah.
I think for cohort 6 that's graduating, there's 28, and then
28. That's right. I know that one.
Yeah.
I just noticed.
And cohort 7 is 30, but we normally try to aim for 35.
Yeah.
And we're capping it at that because, of course, part of the value here is the student-faculty ratio.
The cohort size also, of course, depends on the applications and the skill sets we have in the applications. So it varies, but as Owen said, we are not going to go above 40.
Thank you.
Karina?
Just a quick actually follow up on that. How many applications do you generally get in a year?
We get about 200 for the DSE program, and then we whittle that down to 35, 40.
Yeah, I just wanted a general like admission rate for the program. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Jorge, is your hand up again, or was it not lowered?
Yeah, I
Okay,
just
great.
had more questions. Yeah, I wrote them. I wrote them all down, but the chat box here is disabled, so yeah, I just didn't want to bombard you guys here. But yeah, just a couple more questions here. So you mentioned the capstone projects, and some of them dealt with fire science, MSN recommender systems, Twitter analysis. So from what you've seen, what have been some of the best capstone presentations that have been made? What made them so successful, and how much business impact did they create?
So we had some amazing ones over the years. I don't know if I can go back. I never thought of which one was the best kind of thing, but I remember some fun ones. Like one group built the Rachel bot from Friends. So a chat bot that talks like Rachel, and they had a lot of fun with it. And they were using, Google Cloud for it, and some, transformer algorithms and things like that. Very innovative techniques. So there has been amazing scientific contributions. Some publications happen actually for the advisors. And we generally have a lot of bioimaging and using deep learning methods to do, segmentation and localization of, different things. Like we had projects in cardiac data analysis and cancer and cell analysis. This year we have the neuroscience one. We had projects related to different areas of neuroscience before, with the brain imaging and also neuroscience data. And we had projects in microbiology, especially as it relates to the gut microbiome. We had a lot of property or housing and traffic oriented ones. And this year's traffic project is actually bringing COVID spread data and closures and everything around COVID, and the time series analysis of the traffic related to how COVID changed the traffic patterns. So, these are not just any traffic analysis can we predict the traffic, but there's generally a catch to it. Can we,
Yeah.
for instance, one year it was about the events. If there's an event in the stadium, can we see how one year was about evacuations? And so I believe I won't be able to pick one project out of that.
Yeah.
We had political data analysis once through Twitter, how, sentiments and things, opinions changed over time. And these are all kept in a library archive, so they are there to live forever. If you go to the UCSD library and, look for capstone archives, you'll be able to see those as a collection.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, and you mentioned that this will be done in groups. So if I have a coworker from a company who's also joining, I'm assuming that it's perfectly fine, right, to group together and maybe do a project for a company. Like, hey,
Yes.
we want to work on this, and this is going to add this much value.
There are some rules, of course, like the
yeah.
data being open and the results being publishable
Mhm.
In a report at least, because you'd like to collect these and it's an academic exercise. But we had in the past students working on, for instance, IoT data coming from instruments and doing health analysis on the instruments based on the type of instruments their company was producing.
Mhm.
And so it's a possibility. If you have data from your employer and you could work with it, you can create a group around it. This year, for instance, we have a cybersecurity group.
Mhm.
to identify security issues in software.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's very helpful. Yeah. It's good to know about the restrictions there on the open data. So that's good to know.
And your second part of your question, sorry, was about industry impact.
Yeah.
We don't have in our capstone project the requirement to deploy the solution in practical setting. So we leave it at the product level. We do some analysis of user interviews and understanding the needs to make the models useful in the context of business, but we don't deploy them and look for, monitor their effects and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. Thank you. Okay, and just my last quick question here. It's really just small detail here, but under the statement of purpose, it asks me to include the department to which I'm applying to. So, what would be the department name? Is it just like the Jacobs School of Engineering department or just engineering department?
Is it a drop-down menu, or it's actually asking you to fill in the department?
It is asking me to write it in on the essay. Right? It's not a drop-down or anything like that.
Oh, it would be the data science and engineering program.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to write that then for department.
Yeah, MAS program in data science and engineering.
Okay, data science and engineering program. Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we're going to look forward to your applications. And if you have any questions, you know where we are. Aline, did you have, or Yvonne, did you have anything else to add?
No, just a reminder that this, not the breakout room, but the preceding info session will be posted. So if you have colleagues who missed this, feel free to guide them to it.
Yeah, we also recorded the breakout room, so we
did?
those as well.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you as a student at some point. Good luck with the applications.
If anybody
Thank you
has
so
any
much.
questions, feel free to reach out.
Yes.
Thank you.
See you in fall.
Great. See you.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Bye.